In 1930, around that area, there was a Great Depression, and I guess all of the immigrants that were deported, I know many Hispanics were deported, including my parents, and I was 5 years old, and I had 4 brothers and sisters. We all went with our parents, and we lived in Mexico 14 years. My parents died, and my oldest brother died in Mexico, and then I wrote to my aunt, my mother's sister, who wrote back to us asking us if we wanted to come back, and after we told her that we wanted to come back, she sent her oldest daughter to get us. That was in 1944.
They returned to Mexico in from 1930 to 32, I believe, is what we were told. But the only way that I knew that that had happened was because I had studied it, and I had little bits and pieces of clues that they had returned to Mexico, but nobody knew why or talked about it too much. And when I was fortunate to study about the repatriation in Chicano Boricua studies at Wayne State, then I took the books and I took the documentation, and I rushed to visit my grandfather after I got out of class, and I took him and sat down with him. He was about 87 years old at the time, and I showed him the documentation and said, "Look, this is what they're saying happened. Is this why your family? Is this why you took the family back?" And he said, "No, that we weren't deported. There was no deportation. We just went because there were no jobs here. We had no choice. There was no way to live here." And so I pursued questioning him, and he said, "Well, you know, logic tells you if there were no jobs here, the promised land, what could be there?" And the conditions that they described all the time when they talked about Mexico were just ungodly conditions of starvation and poverty and just really torturous conditions. So I thought there must have been some reason that they went back. They wouldn't voluntarily have gone.
They used to go in old cars, whatever they had, loaded with furniture, clothes and furniture, whatever they could take. Sometimes they break down here for going over there. They just had to stay there till they repair the car or whatever to keep on going. There was no running enough.
To work at Ford, to work in the railroad, to work in the sugar beets, to work in the steel industry, all these places where our people were needed to fill these jobs, and then when the time came that they were not needed and they were sent back. What that meant to us versus what it meant to Italians or Chinese or the Greeks or anybody else who came around the same time but didn't experience a deportation or that disruption, if you could call it a social or a spiritual communal disruption that caused all the people to have to leave and then start all over and have nothing. That means they had no savings, they had no further advancement in learning English, which was essential to our progress in this country.